The Red Raiders are going bowling yet again. And where does the national media have Texas Tech playing and who? We'll discuss all their bowl projections and more in today's video. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And if you want to know more than what's just going on the gridiron for Texas Tech, including the recruiting trail, transfer portal, and bowl projections, well, this is the place right here. So hit that subscribe button and notification bell to join the most engaging Texas Tech community on YouTube in the Back to 12 podcast channel. All right, before we get into where the national media has Texas Tech projected to play in the bowl games, I want to hear from you guys. Who do you want Texas Tech to play and where, right? Like, I know some of y'all are more focused on, well, hey, I want a Power 5 opponent. Some others are focused on, I just want them to be close to where I live. I want to hear from you guys. Where and who do you want the Red Raiders to play this bowl season? And before we get into that, some transfer portal news for the Red Raiders. Landon Peterson officially entered the portal. He started at right guard in 2022. 8 games for the Red Raiders at right guard, I should say. But this past season only played a combined 30 total snaps for Texas Tech. So no surprise there. He's already gotten a few offers, including from a school that we'll talk about that Texas Tech is projected to play in bowl season this year. But that was a veteran guy that was a kind of a chess piece on the offensive line in terms of depth for the Red Raiders. Now Texas Tech is going to have to replace him. All right, let's jump into the national media bowl projections for the Red Raiders. And we're going to start and we're going to clump these together because a lot of them have the same, right? There's really about 4 bowls that Texas Tech is projected to, and we'll discuss kind of what goes into that in terms of the slotting for Texas Tech and also how you get to where you end up playing that bowl game, right? So we'll start with Action Network, CBS, and ESPN. We have 2 ESPN predictions on here. All 3 of those, again, Action Network, CBS, and ESPN, have Texas Tech projected to the Independence Bowl. And that is between the Big 12 and the Pac-12. Now, why is this interesting? All of them have them projected to play Cal. But there has been rumors that maybe UCLA and Cal will switch due to the fact that UCLA right now is currently projected to the LA Bowl. Why would they switch? Well, UCLA is in LA. So they want to have kids be able to travel a little bit and go to different places. And maybe that's where they switch. But as of now, it is projected that Texas Tech would play Cal. That game would take place on Saturday, December the 16th. And we'll talk about why that date, not a good one for the Red Raiders. 2 reasons later on. Next, we have ESPN's other projection, and they have them to the Camellia Bowl, which is pool versus pool. So just could be random, right? You could be the Big 12 against, an AAC team or a Big 10 team, whatever it may be. Whoever has extra teams in terms of bowl qualifying teams, That's how that works. Texas Tech is projected to play Georgia Southern here. Not ideal. That would be on Saturday, December 23rd. Now, College Football Network has the First Responder Bowl as well as Fox Sports. So both of them have Texas Tech as the pool team in this, and they would face up against the AAC opponent. And this one would be USF, and that is the team that actually offered Landon Peterson already. That is South Florida. Texas Tech has played them in a bowl already. If you don't remember, a few years back when Nick Shimonek was the quarterback, Texas Tech ended up actually losing to the Bulls. And then 24/7 Sports has Texas Tech in the Liberty Bowl. That is the Big 12 against the SEC. They have them against Memphis. I don't understand how that works. Maybe it's just the SEC doesn't have enough teams. I'm assuming they're projecting Georgia into the playoff, then Alabama into a New Year's Six Bowl, and maybe that shuffles some things up for the SEC. But that would take place on Friday, December 29th. All right, some things you need to know, though, when it comes down to bowl placements, okay? And I'm looking at my notes just to make sure I get this right for you guys. Where you rank within your conference matters most of the time. If your conference has more than other conferences in terms of bowl-eligible teams, that is taken into effect. Remember how I mentioned the pool aspect of it. Texas Tech would be in that pool potentially since the Big 12 has so many qualifying teams now that UCF won last weekend as well against Houston. So you got an inordinate amount of teams in the Big 12 bowl eligible, okay? But you also have to remember this. Conferences can swap in and out. I gave you that example of UCLA. If they're projected to the LA Bowl, they just don't want the school just to stay there, right? They want them to go experience new things, have the potential for their fan bases to travel, yada, 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 right? So there's that potential. But also, you have to remember the fact that there is a bowl priority system. And what that means is this, okay? Perfect example is last year. Texas Tech was better than Oklahoma in the Big 12 standings. They beat Oklahoma last year, right? So in theory, they should have priority in terms of where they go, but not so fast. The bowls themselves in terms have a priority list, right? Obviously, you're going to have the Sugar Bowl, whatever it may be, in terms of the Big 12. If you're in the college football playoff, that kind of changes things too. But then there's a pecking order after that. The Cheez-It Bowl is really high on that list. Oklahoma's a national brand. They took them over Texas Tech. That's how Texas Tech ended up in Houston last year in the Texas Bowl, right? So that can happen as well. Now, the two big things for Texas Tech in terms of why I don't think they want to play on the 16th at the Independence Bowl, right? Two big things. First and foremost, Texas Tech men's basketball plays in Fort Worth on that day against Vanderbilt. It's never good for an athletic department to have conflicting games, right? Like you just want to have a singular destination type game, right? Especially when you're in a high populated area like DFW where there's a ton of alumni. You don't want that competition for guys to go, okay, do I just go to Fort Worth or do I make this kind of a weekend trip to Shreveport where I can go gamble, sports bet, whatever it is? Oh, and I can watch Texas Tech play football as well. You don't want to have that, right? If you're Texas Tech. Another big reason is this. Texas Tech's fall graduation date is the 16th. How many people would that impact in terms of potentially going to games where they have relatives out there? They're going to, the graduations to see these guys walk across the stage. How would that impact potentially, right? So I think Texas Tech doesn't want that day. So if you are a Red Raider, I would probably be hoping for not the Independence Bowl, but we shall know next weekend in terms of a final destination for the Red Raiders when it comes down to that. I mean, for me, the ideal scenario, right? And again, give me what bowl you want Texas Tech to play in down below, as well as like the video, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. The ideal scenario for me is Texas Tech plays a Power 5 team. I don't think that that's rocket science. I think you probably want that too, right? But I think ideally you want them to play on the 26th in the First Responders Bowl, or you want them in the Liberty Bowl. Now, some things would have to go your way. I believe if I did my math right, if you want to play in the Liberty Bowl, I think that means you want Texas in the playoff. So weigh your options there because that would allow Texas Tech to go up in theory in the pecking order one more time. So it is what it is on that front, right? But I think you also want them to play on the 26th or the 29th from the sheer impact of this. They can't play in the game, but they can technically practice, and that's the early enrollees, the Micah Hudsons of the world, the Will Hammond, right? The other guys, the Ellis Davis. Like all of those guys in theory could come in and practice during bowl time since the NCAA changed that rule. So you want a later date if you're the Red Raiders, because if you play on the 16th, you don't have much time there for, Micah Hudson to come out and practice. You don't have much time for Will Hammond to come out and practice, Ellis Davis, so on and so forth, right? So you want a later date, if possible, if you're the Red Raiders from that standpoint. And also, again, on the 16th, not a great day from the standpoint of graduation. Congrats to all the fall graduates if you're watching this, as well as, Texas Tech men's basketball plays in the Metroplex, one of the most rich and densely populated alumni bases, not one of, the most richly populated alumni base for the Red Raiders. So you have to think about those things as well. But again, got Action Network, CBS, ESPN projecting the Independence Bowl. ESPN in their other projection have the Camellia Bowl. That's in Birmingham, the First Responders Bowl for both College Football Network and Fox. And then you have 24/7 projecting Texas Tech to the Liberty Bowl as well. Let me know one more time. Let me hear you. What bowl game will Texas Tech play in? You give me your prediction down on the pinned comment below. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and notification bell to stay in the know on Texas Tech football all year long. We've got you covered through the offseason as well. Portal season's starting to heat up, people. We've got you covered right here. We'll have videos, pertaining to who's going in the portal, who Texas Tech is targeting, and much more. So join the most engaging Texas Tech community here on YouTube by hitting that subscribe button right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel.